is a BIZTECH review meeting. So a BIZTECH review meeting is the virtual CIO services that Baroan Technologies provides for all of our clients. And we believe this is one of the differentiators for us that other businesses don't offer. See, this doesn't cost any extra money. It's just part of doing business with us and is provided for all of our clients to make sure that they have a full understanding of everything that is in their organization that they should be aware of. So what do we look at with the BIZTECH review meetings? We start out by looking at different spheres within your organization. We look at the assets. When we're looking at the assets, we start to take a look at the age of the equipment, what is being used, things that you should be aware of from a software perspective, if anything is coming out of service and how old everything is. And we're always looking at the next 36 months to ensure that you can properly plan and not be caught off guard by something that is expiring and having only 30 days or less to know when that happens. So we're always looking out for you and trying to give you the best advice on what's happening with the equipment that you have, what's happening in the industry, and any of the software information that you should be aware of, and planning this out for the next 36 months. The next area that we look at is your backup, your recovery, your disaster recovery, and your business continuity. So many times when we go into an organization and work with them, what we find is that the backup that they have may not meet the specific requirements and objectives that the business has. So what does that mean? Every backup has something called a recovery time and a recovery point objective. That essentially means that in the event that you had a failure and it took you, let's say, 8 hours to recover, that is the recovery time objective that you have with that backup. A recovery point would be if you have one backup at 11 p.m. at night, every night taking place, and then you come in the morning and you and your users are working and inputting all this data. Let's say at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something stops working. Your server crashes and you need to recover. Well, the recovery point would be from the last time that a backup was made. And so that would be at 11 o'clock the previous night. So the questions to ask in order to identify whether you have the right disaster recovery and backup in place is, what is your business recovery time objective? How much downtime can you actually afford before it really affects your business and causes enough damage where you're not going to be able to sustain it? So is that we can never be down, or is that we can be down for 2 days and it won't really make a difference? We'll be able to get along with everything that we do. What we find is that every business is unique. Some businesses can afford a little downtime, other businesses cannot. The question around recovery point objective is one that you need to consider to say, well, if something did happen and you only had a backup at 11 o'clock at night, how easy is it to recover all the inputted data that took place during the day? Do you have a paper trail that you can go back to, or is it very difficult to go back and recover? And if it's difficult to go back and recover, well, then your recovery point, depending on how much data you're inputting, might be less. There are solutions that exist that have the capability to take a backup every 15 minutes. And they can go longer, they can go every several hours, or they can go once per day. And based on the different solution needs that you have, something to be aware of is the shorter the time to recover and the shorter the recovery point, probably the solution will be a little bit more expensive. So the more expensive the solution, the less recovery time is needed and the less the recovery point is that exists. So those are the things that we look at to ensure that you have the right solution in place for the needs of your organization. A lot of times we come in as an example and we may see that someone has a tape backup or they might have a backup that is only backing up once a day, but they have over 100 users inputting data. And so we asked them, if you came in to your organization and you weren't able to get back up and running for several days, which is probably very realistic if somebody has a tape backup solution, you say, what would happen? And their answer is always, well, we can't have that. And so we identify that the backup solution that they have and the disaster recovery solution they have with their recovery time and their recovery point objectives where they are just not the right fit. So it's very important to understand what those objectives are for every business and then provide the proper solutions to ensure that a business can function in the event of a fault. The next section that we talk about is the security. And this is very important right now from a security perspective, from the inside and from the outside. So a lot of times people would tend to think that the security is really coming from the outside, or we protect it from the outside. But what they don't realize is that a lot of the security also happens on the inside. Who has access to what files and folders? What permissions are in place? What are you doing to identify if something was going to happen? How do you know if that's actually happening? So we look at the security holistically from the outside and the inside, and we work with all of our clients to ensure that their risk is reduced and that they have the proper security in place based on their business. Some businesses need to have a higher level of compliance and security than others, and not everyone needs to have the strongest security in place, depending on the kind of business and the kind of data that you're collecting. So those, again, are things that we're looking at to address with our clients to make sure that they're in line with what they should be doing to protect their data and their organization. The next section that we look at is business productivity. What we mean by that is, are you leveraging all of the technology that you have, and are you using everything that is available to you to help alleviate the bottlenecks? Do bottlenecks exist in your organization? Probably. Are you using the most technically advanced solution that is available? We don't know. Do you have that in place and are not familiar with what you have in place? And would it benefit you to know that this is available? Good example of this is Microsoft Office Services. Many of our clients have this, but not everybody understands the full power that's available for them and how they may be able to leverage this. When we start to uncover and discuss with our clients some of their processes and how they work within their organization, we try to get a better understanding of where they may be an opportunity for them to leverage some of the services that Office 365 offers, and they may not be aware of it. So you're not necessarily paying for something new. We're just trying to identify where there are some opportunities to help with any bottlenecks or to leverage some of the technology that already exists. So that's a great benefit and feature, again, just to ensure that all of our clients are leveraging all the technology that is available for them. The next section that we look at within an organization is vendor management. A lot of times we find that with vendor management, the people that are dealing with the different vendors don't really have all of the expertise that they need, and so there's a lot of trust that goes into dealing with the vendors. And for the most part, a vendor will not steer you wrong, but not knowing the technology could put you at a disadvantage. And so being involved in the technology industry for so many years, we work with different vendors all the time for our clients. And so what vendor management does is it ensures that you have your back watched by us. We will be able to review and provide you with all the information about the vendor's particular service that you would want to know. For example, do you have the proper internet connection available for you at the office? Do you know what the going rate is in the industry? And do you know when that expires? So a lot of times clients will sign a long-term agreement and not even know it when it comes up for renewal, and so it automatically rolls over for the next 3-year term, as an example. When this happens, the people are not contacting you from your vendor and notifying you that, oh, I'm going to reduce your rates, or we have a new technology that's available. And the reason they're not doing that is because if you don't call them, they're not going to call you. And unfortunately, we see that happen quite a bit. And so it's very important to have somebody helping you with all the different contracts that are coming up, all the different solutions that are in place, as well as the capability to deal with the vendors from a technical perspective on your behalf. So the vendor management is a great capability that you gain just by working with us. We again have the capability to speak to the different vendors and to ensure that your best interest is what we look at for any service that they're providing you. And a lot of the different options that you have, you may not know what each one is, but we can help ensure that you have all the details in order for you to make the right decision. Finally, the last area of the organization that we look at is the historical data, historical review of all of our services. We start with the review of the amount of service tickets that were opened up within your organization with us. We review any of the trends. We look at the solutions that you have in place. We look at the type of calls that people have made. We try to get an understanding of why are people calling us so we can work with them to try to resolve an issue. If we see a trend, let's say for example with one user contacting us more so because they're having more issues than others, we might be able to identify that maybe there's something going on with that system that needs to be addressed, and it's not just a person that's having an issue. Or maybe it's something a little bit bigger that's going on in your office. And so we try to look at the different trends and understand what's happening, and also to identify how efficient your office is by comparing it to the industry standard number of issues per user compared to what is going on in your organization. Some of the other reports that we review with you are the amount of spending that you have. So a lot of times people will not necessarily understand what they are spending on. They'll just see a number that they spent with us. And that could be an all-inclusive number on hardware, software, services, projects. And so you don't really have a good understanding or a good basis for where the expenditures took place. So we do provide you with a breakout and an understanding that you will have about how everything was spent within your organization with us, so that you could look to see the different areas within technology of your organization and what it is that you're spending money on. And then we also look at renewals, subscriptions, licensing, things that are coming up very similar to the asset side of the original conversation we had. We look at what's actually happening with the organization from a renewal perspective, and then again give you our best guidance for what to consider and what to expect as things are going through and time is passing. And so those are the areas that we would be reviewing with the BIZTECH review meeting to ensure that your business is always leveraging our services and everything that is available to you with technology.